All right, with the Sixers out, it's that time of the year where we are waiting for the draft picks to officially declare, and we have two new ones here that we need to talk about here on the PHLY Sixers podcast with Derek Bodner, Kyle Newbeck. I'm Devon Givens. Bree always producing, and with it, right out of the chute, we've had a number of them, and we've talked about those players. We need to discuss a few more. On Tuesday, we've had South Carolina's really, really talented Collin Murray-Boyles. He declared for the NBA draft. And then on Wednesday, we also had Kon Knueppel from Duke also declare. And when we look at Kyle, the number 6 pick in particular, because we kind of figure where the 4 are going to be, 5 is kind of a wild card. But these are two players that we've had discussed in the past briefly, but in the range of that 6. More so Knueppel. Collin Murray-Boyles, though, has elevated himself a bit into that conversation. What do you think of? Let's start with Collin Murray-Boyles.
It's a mouthful,
it
man.
Is.
That's
CMB,
you
baby.
get those hyphen names. It's just you get tripped up a little bit. So these are both guys that I like relative to consensus quite a bit. I've been trying to dig in more on CMB because a lot of draft people that I respect have sung his praises and have said things like, "Oh, he could be a top 3 to 5 prospect in this class," and I'm struggling to maybe get there. But what I would say is that he has all the indicators of somebody who is going to be an impact defender at the next level. There are perhaps some concerns about his vertical explosiveness, his overall size, like his measurements at the combine are going to be one of the most interesting moments of that combine. But when you talk about how quickly a guy thinks the game, his reaction speed within a play, his effort throughout plays, right? Like South Carolina did not have a good year this year record-wise. And when you're a guy who's being considered for lottery pick, top 10, whatever, there are definitely guys that we've seen in the past who maybe they were good defenders, maybe they were engaged players, but you see that drop off after a certain point. I have, in the games I've watched and the tape that I've seen, I have not encountered that. This was a guy who makes the second, the third, the fourth effort on a defensive play. He'll blow up a play multiple times within the play. He's got great hands, right, where he gets a lot of deflections in passing lanes. Sometimes he can just spear the ball out of midair. And I think he's going to be a very, very, very good defensive player. If he ends up grading out well on wingspan and standing reach, you could talk me into he could be like the ultimate sort of front court player where he's a 4 next to a shooter at the 5, or it could be a small ball 5. He's the type of player that if he pans out on that end, I think can be a transformative type of defensive player. All the question marks are on offense. Has not shot the ball well, and frankly has not shot the ball enough. He doesn't use his right hand all that much around the basket, which for a person whose skill set is mostly around the basket as a scorer, that's a pretty big concern. I do think he's a high-level passer, and that ties into the whole idea of he thinks the game really well. And so I don't know if he's the guy that I would take at 5 or 6, right? But I do think that guys are close enough in this 6 to end of the lottery range that I don't think it would be the craziest thing in the world to consider him at the high end of that range.
No, it certainly wouldn't be crazy. And I agree with a lot of what you said defensively. Like, I think he, in terms of read, react, in terms of anticipation, I think he is as good as anyone in this lottery. I think he might be one of the more versatile defensive players, one of the more impactful, forces a lot of turnovers, in good positions almost all the time. Like Kyle said, his compete level is never in question. The shot is, I think, a pretty big concern.
Yep.
And I do think the measurements at the combine are going to be huge. Well, hopefully they'll be huge, but they'll be important because
they are huge, and they are huge.
He has a lot more value if he can be a small ball 5, in part because the shooting is enough of a question that you don't know how much you can stick him next to a traditional center. So if he can, fill that role, I think that would be big for his stock. You would love to see him come out there, have a really good standing reach, really good wingspan, measure, have the kind of versatility that comes with that. And then you will give that shot more time to develop, because I do think that is going to be a multi-year process.
One of the players that he likes to watch for some offensive things there because of his aggressiveness, Julius Randle.
Now, if Julius Randle could pass like he could,
And play
he's a
defense like he
completely
could.
different
But
player.
that's
Yeah,
thinking
and
the
if he
game,
could defend
right?
like him.
Yeah.
But yes, the power driving game is a lot of
Yes.
his offensive focus right now.
And
So,
both being lefties certainly help in that one. The shooting doesn't really apply where you're all that worried to this other prospect from Duke, though, Derek, Kon Knueppel. The shooting is really why people talk about him the way that they do this high in
They
the draft.
really are like mirror opposites. If you like their strengths are completely different. If you can combine them, which obviously you can't.
boy, that'd
but
be a hell of a player.
They are
Number
mirror
one pick?
opposites.
All right.
That's like
No,
a creative player in 2K.
I mean, Kon might be, if not the best pure shooter in this draft, probably top 2 or 3. Like maybe you take Trey Johnson because Trey takes higher volume, more degree of difficulty, more self-creation. But Kon is perhaps the most reliable, has really good diversity with that shot, is able to use that to get 2 spots in the mid-range, which is good because he doesn't really get to the mid-range all that much just on his pure speed or first step. But he's just a real smart player with a really reliable jump shot. And I think because of that, he's going to be a valuable player. The question is, how much upside does he have? Can he become a third option? Is he going to top out as maybe a 5th or 6th, like a last starter type or a 6-man type because of his physical limitations? But the shooting is legit.
I actually do think him and CMB share one thing in common. People are really going to pay attention to what their measurements are at the combine because Kon is listed at 6'7" at Duke. If he comes in at 6'5", I think that's a real meaningful difference, right? And so that's it. I think he'll be a good prospect regardless. I think he'll be a good player regardless. But if you're talking about how does this guy fit with the Sixers specifically, the difference between being 6'5" and 6'7" is, hey, maybe that guy can defend a different sort of player. I think he's going to have defensive challenges regardless, but you can at least talk yourself into it. I think he competes hard. He generally reads the floor well, like positional sense is pretty good. And I'm really bullish on the offensive stuff. I think he's got a diverse shot profile. I think he's a better pick and roll playmaker than he gets credit for. So I think as a secondary guy on side actions and even if it's like Maxey or Grimes or whoever is taking a play off or just needs a break, I think he is a completely competent and capable playmaker. We saw what he did for Malawak for a lot of this season. I think you put him in pick and rolls with a Dembona, he's going to make good reads, smart reads for most of those plays. I think he's a guy who has a low probability to outright fail. And I just think he's the sort of guy you want on any team, right?
Yeah.
Isn't going to dominate the ball, but can succeed with it in his hands. Good relocation instincts, very good shooter, like has a lot of great traits that NBA teams are after. It's really just, is he big enough and is he athletic enough to defend the sort of guys he needs to at the next level? It's the $1 million question.
His comp that a lot of people talk about, Corey Kispert of the Washington Wizards, 6'6". For Corey Kispert, we know what his role has been in the NBA. He's made a lot of shots. He's made a lot of money and could be valuable on a lot of teams. So we'll see where that falls into place for Kon Knueppel as he is declared for the NBA draft. We'll keep this going over the course of the next few months. Of course, when these players start to declare and we dive into it a little bit more as to who might fit best with the Philadelphia 76ers, especially if they are able to keep that top 6 pick. That'll do it for us here on this quick view of who's declared. Collin, you say it.
Collin Murray-Boyles.
And Kon Knueppel.
Give yourself more credit, though. Like, you hit it right 2 times in a row. You just screwed up on, like, the 3rd one.
Well, at least I also know to
It's
pass
like
the ball.
it's like saying
I'm gonna
supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, right?
I'm also-
you say it 1 time, it's easy. You say it 3 times, gets tougher.
I'm a point guard, man. If I get it wrong, I'm passing the rock. I passed it to Kyle, passed it to Derek. We passed it to Bree. I'm Devon. We'll catch up with you next time as we talk about the players that declare and we look ahead to the NBA draft.